Good morning. Let's call to order the Silicon Valley Clean Energy Authority Special Board of Directors meeting for Friday, May 15th, 2026 at 10 a.m. Do we have roll call?
Yes, thank you. Director Lee.
Present.
Vice Chair Meadows. With enthusiasm, please. Director Meadows.
Here, regular level of enthusiasm.
This is the coffee right there.
Oh, there you go.
Director Fruin.
Here.
Walia.
Here.
Bristow.
Here.
Director Barbadillo.
Here.
Chair Klein.
Here.
Showalter.
Here.
Mekachek.
Present.
Joining us remotely, Director Hines.
Present.
Ms. Beltran.
Here.
Have a quorum of our board present.
Thank you very much. Next up is public comment on matters not listed on our agenda. I see no one in the room. Oh, sorry. You're hiding behind Tina. Any?
I am, and that's hard to do. She's rather small.
Comment?
So yes, hi, I'm Bruce Carney from Mountain View. Last night I attended the Drake Awards at the SETI Institute. The Drake Awards are about the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, and I had a chance to talk to an astronaut and hear from other people who were interested in space. And they talked about something I'd not heard before that I thought was so important. I wanted to talk to you about it today. It's called the overview effect. The overview effect is something that many astronauts have experienced when they've seen Earth from Earth orbit, or in the case of Artemis 2 or Apollo, from around the moon. And one astronaut who you may all know is William Shatner. He went into space when he was 90, and he wrote an article about his experience that I found to be profoundly moving. So let me just briefly excerpt what William Shatner wrote. I thought that going into space would be the ultimate catharsis of that connection I had been looking for between all living things, that being up there would be the next beautiful step to understanding the harmony of the universe. In the film Contact, when Jodie Foster's character goes into space and looks out into the heavens, she lets out an astonished whisper, "They should have sent a poet." I had a different experience, because I discovered that the beauty isn't out there, it's down here with all of us. Leaving that behind made my connection to our tiny planet even more profound. It was among the strongest feelings I've ever encountered. The contrast between the vicious coldness of space and the warm nurturing of Earth below filled me with overwhelming sadness. Every day we are confronted with the knowledge that the further destruction of Earth at our hands, the extinction of animal species, of flora and fauna, things that took 5 billion years to evolve, and suddenly we'll never see them again because of the interference of mankind. It filled me with dread. My trip to space was supposed to be a celebration. Instead, it felt like a funeral. This cognitive shift that William Shatner experienced and many other astronauts have experienced, I think, is at the basis of a shift in consciousness that needs to be somehow spread very widely among ordinary citizens, but particularly among decision makers. So I just like to ask you all to reflect on how your consciousness has shifted around environmental protection over the time you've served on this board, to do what you can to help others make that shift.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Is there anyone remote wishing to speak on this item?
There are no hands raised, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I'll close public comment. We'll move on to consent calendar. Are there any comments on our consent calendar? Seeing none, I'll open up public comment on consent calendar item. No one in the room? Is there anyone remote wishing to speak on consent?
No hands raised, Chair.
Okay. I'm looking for a motion. Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Second by Showalter. May we please have the voice vote?
Thank you. Vice Chair Meadows.
Yes.
Director Fruin.
Aye.
Chair Klein.
Aye.
Martinez Beltran.
Aye.
Showalter.
Yes.
Lee.
Aye.
Mekachek.
Aye.
Bristow.
Aye.
Hines.
Aye.
Barbadillo.
Aye.
Walia.
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move on to our regular calendar. Our first up is our CEO report.
Yes, just a few items to highlight. First of all, I want to thank the board members, chair, included, that attended the SVCE annual conference. It was their 10-year anniversary, so lots of celebration, huge crowd, 1,000 people. They had to turn people away, biggest yet. It was at the Sacramento Convention Center, lots of great speakers, including some people from our own organization. I was able to serve on a panel called Supply, Scale, and Speed. We had our own chair of the board, Mayor Klein, serve on a panel called Large Loads Local Choice, the CCA debate about data centers in California's energy future. We had Leanna Wentz serve on what's holding renters back, barriers and solutions to electrification and clean energy benefits. And then we had our own Pam moderating a panel about winning the narrative, communications that move the needle. But the biggest star at the conference by far was our tiny home. We had so much people go through there, including Cal Penn, the celebrity. He actually went in and Pam got an opportunity to give him a personal tour and ask him some questions, and that's on our LinkedIn. So lots of great pictures were taken. I think lots of good connections were made. Lots of good opportunities were found, and I think a lot of learning as well. We'll send out some highlights and some pictures in the talking points that Zoe and her team sends out the day after, so you guys will get those as well. But just wanted to thank the board members that were able to attend on behalf of SVCE. We also have, is Benna in the room?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, there you are, Benna.
Behind Tina.
We have Benna providing the latest and greatest information about what's going on the legislative front at the state level.
Right, so a big week for the state legislature this week. The governor releases May revise yesterday. Revenues actually have gone up for the state, which is good news. And I think I would characterize it as he made modest adjustments upward for some programs, but generally status quo. Of note, he is proposing to set aside $100 million for a wildfire rebuilding fund for LA wildfire victims. This is still another step in the state budget process. The legislature has until June 15th to pass the budget, so there'll be additional budget hearings and more discussion about what the state wants to do this year. Yesterday also was Suspense Day in the legislature, where the Senate and Assembly Appropriations Committees go through a massive bill list and do up and down votes. So good news for us. Both of Cal CCA's sponsored bills this year have made it out of the appropriations committees. This is SB 1138 by Senator Padilla around RA transactability, and AB 1761 by Rogers on the PCIe data transparency. So really excited to see both of those bills passed. Thank you. I know several of the member agencies have also taken support positions on this bill, so appreciate that support too. Also wanted to give a quick federal update. So SVCE was part of the the Community Choice Energy Alliance National CCA Trade Association trip to DC a couple of weeks ago. We had a flurry of meetings with about 30 different people in the DOE, both the majority and minority committee staff members. We met with all of SVCE's delegation, including our 2 US Senator offices, and had really great conversations on a variety of topics. The 3 main ones that we talked about were preserving energy tax credits, especially for energy storage and geothermal, and preserving municipal tax exempt bond capabilities, which really funds our prepays, but then also many of you guys use it to fund infrastructure projects in your cities as well. Good news there, none of those 2 items are on the cutting board or chopping block for this latest reconciliation package, which is a very narrowly focused package to fund the Department of Homeland Security. But it was still really good for us to continue talking about the real world impacts and the impacts on energy affordability of keeping these tax credits and financing options available. We also talked a lot about permitting reform. There's bipartisan conversations about how to speed up energy projects. And then finally, just like at the state level, data centers is a really big topic at the federal level. So we talked about various policy approaches and had really good conversations. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Is there anything in particular you want us to advocate for now?
The 2 Cal CCA sponsored bills are priorities. We are also working through Cal CCA on a PG&E sponsored large loads bill. It's AB 3883 by Assemblymember Zabur. So that's something that's active conversations. We're hoping to see some good amendments come out on the assembly floor. So happy to keep the board posted on that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Well, last item on my CO report is an update from Zoe Elizabeth on the Bay Area Energy Street meeting that was held last week. Just provide you kind of a recap on what SVCE staff are doing to prepare you going forward.
Absolutely. So this was actually a split meeting. This was, first of all, this was an updated meeting of the full board, and it was a discussion item. Staff was bringing forward, there was no decision that was made. Staff was bringing forward an overview of the exemptions that they are proposing, as well as a proposal to move back implementation until October 2027 to give them time to basically get the training, the marketing materials, and the exemption process stood up. On the first Wednesday meeting, there was so much public comment that the meeting adjourned before board discussion. So I think there was over 3 hours, 150 public comments. It was about 2/3 support and 1/3 oppose. My understanding, and Director Lee may also speak to this too, there was also a lot of incoming to direct board members during that time. And then the meeting continued this Wednesday to go into board discussion, a very robust, I would call it thoughtful, engaging conversation from board members asking questions in the weeds about how the exemption process would work, asking questions about how permitting works in different jurisdictions. And one board member said, please bring a permitting ordinance forward, a model ordinance language. That's something that SVCE has already been working with all of your member agencies on, right? To kind of smooth out the friction. They did do, I guess folks are calling kind of a straw poll during conversation of the folks that were there, and it landed around 10 in support of moving forward with the direction as is, and 8 that were saying they think that the rules should be slowed down. So much closer than it has been. I think that that is due to changes on the board more than changes than what's happened in the kind of most recent findings of things. That's how I would characterize that going forward. So the next meeting will be a vote in October. It's currently scheduled for October, where staff will be bringing that model ordinance language, as well as a map of existing rebate programs. That continues to be a big question folks are asking, is how much rebate funding is available? Are there holes? How can those holes be filled where they exist? In addition to working with your staff, SVCE is leading a group of all of the other CCAs as well as Palo Alto in the region to say work collaboratively on projects so that we can kind of be more than some of their parts. I won't go into all of those details, but happy to provide an update another time, but we're really taking that preparation seriously. We also are putting together an event alongside the Cities Association for August 31st. That is meant to empower local electeds with talking points, communication techniques. We imagine, just like in the lead up to REACH codes, there could be a lot more community questions, organized and spontaneous. And we want to make sure that folks have the facts at hand to respond to those questions. More immediately, you want to show we do have a blog on our website that's called Sorting Fact from Fiction. That is a very quick overview of like the top 10 questions that we get. We will include this link as well in the talking points that is meant for you. We also have, so that's there. On a somewhat related note, in your talking points, we've been working on ensuring ongoing board education for our new board members, but also for everyone. We've included a set of kind of 10 high-level, most common questions you would get about electrification and about SVCE. That is in today's CEO report, and we'll also include it in those talking points. We wrote those 10 questions meant so that they could be memorized by you. When we first got it back from staff, I will say it was about 25 pages long. I had the joy of cutting it down to 1 page. And it's kind of meant to be that way. If there's other questions you have that you'd like us to add, please let us know, but consider that a resource too.
Yes, I just want to say, thanks Zoe for the update regarding the bad meeting, the Bay Area District, the new acronym, BUCNet. It was a very thoughtful discussion. Like you said, it went into 2 different meetings in order to get all the public comments and then the very detailed comment from the different director. I was certainly honored to be serving on that board as well, and that this vote won't take place until October. So if there's any more comments, we're still receiving it at their district. But I also want to say that I'm certainly very proud to be on this board at SVCE, because we are also doing our part to support this type of rules to try to transition our community away from natural gas usage, like including our heat pump water heater rebate now to $2,500. With this, I think there's a limited time incentive for 500 more for those doing it by May and June, right? So note to everybody, get your water heater done through us and you can get a nice rebate. I just want to say thanks staff and our fellow directors for this good work. And second thing, that did not come in the CEO report. I just want to give a huge congratulations to our CEO, Monica, for being named one of the 2026 Women of Influence, which is a very deserved honor, and we're incredibly lucky to hear about CEO. Yes. I do have one question, Monica. Does it mean that you're now officially an influencer?
You can ask my staff. Them at all. Thank you all.
Any other questions or comments?
The volatility in the increase in the price of natural gas, is that having any influence on the decision-making process and where people are on the economics of switching to electrification? And I know it's kind of a double-edged sword because most of our electricity that's generated between midnight and 5 a.m. is natural gas. Do you have any comments on that? Was that an issue or was it just not even discussed?
Bill savings have come up as an issue. I will say even before the current volatility, the bill savings from heat pump water heaters are clear, and so it makes sense. I don't recall in the meeting if they talked about gas volatility this time around. Most of the concern is really around the upfront cost of installation. That's where the kind of the key challenge is. The exemptions that the staff has proposed, we feel really strongly that they have gone above and beyond to address those issues so that those who really can't afford the incremental cost or live in a place where there aren't rebates should be in the position will be able to be exempted, I would say. But to answer your direct question, it did not come up, the ongoing bill savings and increased natural gas.
Okay, I'll now add a gratuitous comment. I've had a couple of heat pump water heaters in properties, and I like them because of the performance. They just work so much better, but you know, most people think that that's not the case. Thank you.
So this isn't exactly a question. I can maybe put my intonation up at the end and turn it into but I did want to acknowledge Bruce Carney, who did a lot of running around with postcards and stuff, and he did some of the legwork and spared me when I still had a house full of guests. So he delivered a lot of postcards in support. So thank you for doing that, Bruce. Yeah.
Other comments or questions? Yes.
I just also like to really appreciate the fact sheet that's in the CEO report and the information you're going to share on the myths, but there's also a really good myths and facts on the BUCNet website that I shared with people I knew. So I would urge people to take a look at that. It's very clear. It's only 2 pages.
Yes.
So in line with that, I want to thank you for both the blog that I was checking and I appreciate the knowledge to people. And I really like the talking points. That has been something we've been talking here at SVCE for the last few years. It's much needed for residents in the community, especially in I know. And one of the things we talked last week as we were talking of the August 31st event, that's a great communication tool that we need, especially in cities like mine, where we had a 3-2 vote on the reach codes originally. And memory serves me right, the city of Campbell had a challenge with the reach codes as well. So deeply, deeply appreciate the leadership from SVCE in supporting all the cities. Without this, we will not be able to move forward. And I would also wait to look at the updated rebate slides from all the different locations. That's very important, especially given the scenario today where all cities are hurting and residents are getting, all the taxes are increasing, the rates are increasing, not just taxes, sorry, I correct myself. The rates are increasing for all utilities, not just rates. Thank you.
From a exemption standpoint for BAAD, emergency replacement, and I think our program of emergency replacement is critical, especially past the date of no return. But are there carve-outs for like still selling gas water heaters for programs like that? That it's like we'll help you through a week of permitting or 2 weeks of permitting, but you're making that ultimate move to electric.
My understanding on this, that staff was still figuring out how they would sell the gas water heaters that are exempted,
Okay.
but that there's not a general emergency replacement carve out. But what they have done is they really have created carve outs for every instance that we are aware of where it's very difficult to do it quickly. So things such as if there's a long run of electric wire that's needed, then you can get a one-time exemption. Space constraints. If you can demonstrate low income, you can get an exemption.
Okay. And so
they were basically trying to make the carve out so that they didn't have to create another structure where they are regulating a short-lived gas water heater, which would create a lot of implementation challenges.
Okay, and that was part of it. So yeah, it'd be good to educate us on what exemptions are there, because I think that's what I didn't see that in our list, and I understand that's detailed, but I do think that pointing people to the fact that we're trying, from a regulation standpoint, we're trying to make that transition as smooth as possible. And making sure that people aren't without hot water, it's like, okay, whatever the issues are on your specific location, on your specific site, we'll work through them. But there are potential exemptions if things don't work out.
Yeah.
But, it's like, oh, now, what, and especially hearing from some of the seniors, I think that's where, in my community, that's where I'm hearing what some of the biggest worries about. Any other questions or comments on this item, or this is
CEO report.
on the CEO report overall?
We're still there.
We're still there. I have no further items on the CEO report.
Okay. Let's go ahead and open up public comment. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak? Anyone remote?
None online.
Okay, I will go ahead and close public comment. And I just want to thank Monica and all staff for supporting me and supporting the directors that were in Sacramento for Cal CCA. It was a fantastic conference, and definitely kudos to Monica. She's seen as a leader across, everyone knows Monica when you go to the Cal CCA conferences.
Years.
Makes a difference.
So it's a teenager.
Yeah, amazing how that works.
But, definitely SVCE is seen as a leader in many things. And, it's always interesting to talk to other CCAs and other, board members. And, we have a very good reputation, and that goes to our staff, that goes to our leadership. So thank you for that.
Likewise, thank you.
Any other comments? No? Okay, so I will go ahead and close that item and move to our next item. Item 3, select additional members for SVCE 2026 committees. Andrea?
Thank you. Good morning, directors. So as mentioned, this item is to select any additional members for our 2026 committees. A little bit of background, we did select committees in January and February of this year. However, there have been some vacancies. And so with the support of the executive committee, the staff sent out a call for interest to see if there was anybody else who would be interested in joining some of those vacant seats or openings on our committee. And as a result of that request, we heard from one person for our executive committee seat, one seat available. A reminder that this is made up of our primary board members who have served on our board for at least 1 year. We heard from Director Makachuk is interested in that committee. For our finance and administration committee, we had 2 available spots. This committee can be made up of primary board members, alternate board members, or member agency staff. And we heard from Director Hines representing Campbell and Margaret Abekova representing the County of Santa Clara for those 2 seats. For our audit committee, much similar to our finance and administration committee, can be made up of primary directors, alternates, or member agency staff. We heard from Director Martinez Beltran, who nominated Datman, who is the finance director of Morgan Hill. In the event the committee would like to appoint these representatives, here is a snapshot of what our rosters would look like with them added. And that concludes the staff report.
Thank you. Are there any questions of staff? Let me go ahead and open up the public hearing on this item. Any member of the public wishing to speak? Anyone remote?
No answers, Chair.
Okay, I will close public comment. First, is there any additional interest for any of the 3 committees? And just as a reminder, from the audit committee, we have another seat that could be available if people are interested. Okay. No one remote, no one in the room that has interest. With that, for me, since we have less number of interest than the positions or an equal number of interest as open positions, I would be willing to entertain a motion.
So moved.
So moved.
You're a little bit late, Director Martinez Beltran, but would you like a second?
Sure.
So Walia and then Martinez Beltran. Any other comments? I just want to say,
I was just gonna say, I'm particularly glad to see the Finance and Administrative Committee filled out, because I found serving on that to be really educational in terms of onboarding and this and sort of keeping up with really the meat and potatoes of what we do. So I really am glad to see that.
Vice Chair Mountains.
Yeah, I really support this slate, the slates plural, looks good. I do want to suggest that maybe the executive committee should take up, I don't know whether it's in our bylaws or our norms or whatever we call our documents. Okay, those things, whether one person should sit in all the committees. I think that's a discussion item that, so as you could imagine, that could be problematic. It's not problematic at the moment, but I do think that might be a future agenda item.
Right. And so I'll second that, Vice Chair. I do think that, and I think there's a second portion of that. It's not just how many committees you're on, but also the terms of service for these different committees, because I also see from an organizational standpoint, there needs to be, let's say, continual transition. It's like, okay, there's value in the wisdom of I've done this before, but there's also value in the concept that I've been here forever and I want it this way, or the other half of that of, it's like you want new ideas and fresh perspectives coming into each of these committees. And I do think that transition is important. So as we talk about that for a future discussion, conceivably also looking at terms of service, for,
The bench.
to keep the bench
Yeah.
interested and all
Yeah.
that. Yes,
And trained, and yes.
Director Ristra?
I think the points are good. I was grateful to see that there were people that stepped up to these openings because as the year started, we did not have all of them filled. And in terms of someone being on all the committees, that may not be best practice if there were a lot of people wanting to do it. I'm particularly appreciative that there's actually somebody who wants to step up and devote that much time and be on every committee if we had multiple people applying. When I looked at who was eligible for the executive committee, it's a lot of people that are gonna be termed out in 26. So I think the other thing is how do we encourage newer people to step into these roles? You know, next year when Councilmember Rennie is not on the Los Gatos Town Council, I'll be primary, but I'm termed out 2 years. So I'm trying to figure out who do I pull up to get up to speed on SVCE. So I think we all need to think about that in our cities.
Absolutely, and especially executive committee, the practice is you need to be on the board and a primary on the board for 1 year, which is also limits the number, the pool sometimes dramatically for either alternates that are active or, you know, you're alternate and attending some meetings and then primary and, you know, trying to get more that bench at the executive committee. It makes sense that the executive committee should be, you know, members that are very active in the organization for at least a year.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that sort of thing of trying to make sure that you have the right mix of people and kudos to you for looking forward, because I think that's something that, you know, each of our cities should do, especially for this board, trying to make sure that the bench is deep as far as bringing in your alternates actively and then figuring out the right time to pass up. Thank you.
But anyway, I just want to say, appreciate Member Mekachek's desire to come back and serve and fill that space.
Thank you. Director Makachek.
Two things. First of all, I will be resigning it shortly from the audit committee, so that my name won't be everywhere. But the other thing is that, and I'm just going to repeat what people have said or summarize. I think we have to consider succession planning, and I'll just leave it at that. And I think that could be in an item for the executive committee or whatever. I'll let it go with that. Yeah.
Director Hines.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate the interest and appreciation of being able to get involved with the Finance and Administrative Committee. That has, to me, always been the fastest way to really get a full breadth and understanding of the organization. So thank you for the consideration for that and looking forward to it.
Thank you for your willingness to serve. Thank you. Director Wally.
Thank you, Chair. I agree with all the comments that have been made, and succession planning is very important, and also having different people on different committees is vitally important, especially when we look at the audit and the finance committee. What I'm observing and what I was listening to, Andrea said, for 2 or 3 committees, board members, alternates, and staff are eligible. So I don't have any issues with the current setup in the audit committee, but when I'm looking at it, I'm seeing only 2 members, whether board members or alternates. And so perhaps when you're looking at the rules and regulations as suggested by Vice Chair Meadows, keep in mind that perhaps we can find another way to encourage more board members. If that situation were to happen in the finance committee, enough staff in all the cities, but somehow there needs to be a little bit more of a representation. And if Brian is not on the audit committee, then we are looking at only 1 member from the elected on the audit. So just jumped out at me in line with your.
Maybe members can be voluntold.
Yes.
Yes. Any other
That's a good word.
Any other comments?
I just to reiterate,
Well, enough in Iraq.
the action item is for staff to bring a discussion to the executive committee, possibly modifying the operating rules and regulations to address the issues that have been raised. May I suggest sometime in the fall, August, fall would be okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
no rush as far as that's concerned.
We'll do that.
Thank you. And with that, please conduct the vote.
Yes. Director Lee? Barbadillo?
Aye.
Walia?
Aye.
Martinez Beltran?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair Klein?
Aye.
Director Hines?
Aye.
Showalter?
Yes.
Bristow?
Aye.
Vice Chair Meadows?
Hi.
Director Makachek?
Aye.
Thank you, that carries unanimously.
Thank you all, and thank you for those that are adding to the different committees, so thank you for serving. Next up is item 4, authorize the CEO to amend existing power purchase agreement with COSO Geothermal Power Holdings LLC and modify authorization for Fish Lake Geothermal LLC for geothermal energy. Speaking is Zach.
All right,
There you go.
I'm in the room in the back. Yeah, good morning, everybody. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. Yeah, so the recommendation laid out here, we're asking for authority delegation, the CEO, make some changes to 2 of our geothermal contracts, COSO and Fish Lake. The terms listed here, we'll run through those in subsequent slides. We can jump to the next slide, start with COSO. This is the current arrangement we have in place. We have a 15-year contract that started delivery 2022, runs through 2036. This is a 130 megawatt geothermal project in Inyo County, California. Inyo County is just north of Kern, eastern side of the Sierras. Facility's been in operation since the 1980s. And it's a fixed price agreement. And the need, when we originally solicited this resource, 2019, 2020 timeframe, was for renewable energy and capacity. For the next slide. Some of the proposed terms, what we're looking to do, we're going to extend the agreement by 5 years through 2041. So that's a 130 megawatt facility, but we are one of 3 off-takers. And us and Central Coast Community Energy, we did this together. We each have 15-year contracts. The third off-taker is SCAPA on behalf of several of its members, as a 20-year agreement started at the same time. So the owner wanted to extend our agreement to align all of the end dates. Along with that, we've also negotiated an expansion of the facility by up to 11 megawatts. There's a minimum maximum band there with us and 3CE splitting it 50-50. We'd be looking at between 2.5 to 5.5 megawatts of additional geothermal capacity. The owner operator is doing some drilling work for sourcing additional steam and wells. And based on what they're able to produce, there's a minimum of 2.5 and up to 5.5. That would start in 2028. Pricing, same structure, but with this amendment, there's some protections built in that if the work they're doing does not yield all of the benefits that they're expecting, there's some protections for SVCE in case the resource doesn't perform. And kind of a cherry on top with this resource is we're trying to get this expansion quantity to count towards some of the regulatory procurement orders that, when CPUC tells us you need to go buy X megawatts of certain resource types, we have to go do that. And this resource, since it's from the 1980s, would not qualify as new, but this expansion, we're saying this is new. This is more geothermal on the grid than there was before. So we'd like to count, and we think we have a pretty good case. If we go to the next slide. This is a table laying out the current and amended agreements. We'll start on row by row. First row is our annual average contract capacity. The first few years we're at about 43 megawatts. There's a step down to 28 megawatts through year 15. And then in the amendment for those outer years, we're proposing an average of 21 megawatts of just the extension. And then the expansion will add on top of that 2.5 to 5.5. The amendment will be effective January 2027, and then that new capacity, the guaranteed start is 2028. and it will run through 2041, fixed price structure. In terms of clean contribution, currently we're at between 6 to 10% with those capacity step downs, and then in those outer years, we're looking at 5%, and with the expansion, 1% on top. All right, if we go to the next slide. So as with all of these proposals, we present the two primary alternatives, and we are recommending to give authority to amend, to extend and expand the contract. But as always, we could choose not to do this, which would keep all contract terms the same. Contract would end 2036, and the portfolio value it provides would be as it is today. The second option, which what we're proposing, is amend the PPA, go through 2041, adding up to 5.5 megawatts of geothermal capacity, which is extremely scarce. This is something we're not seeing, as Monica mentioned about CalCCA and that conference, talking to lots of people. Geothermal is not something that's being actively built. It's very hard to find. So that everything we can squeeze on this is great. And this amendment, we think, will increase the value of this contract, helps us with meeting regulatory procurement orders, and our IRP modeling, which is in the works, will likely tell us more geothermal in the portfolio is a good thing. And we go to the next slide. Okay. So that's COSO. So that I'll go through the next one, which is Fish Lake, and we'll recap them both together. So to start with Fish Lake, this is a contract we did jointly through California Community Power, CC Power, which is our 9 CCA members joint procurement organization focused primarily on compliance resources. We have 4 active contracts right now, and you all approved us entering the Willow Rock compressed air energy storage project back in January of this year. So CC Power agreement, we're part of that. There's 8 members that are part of Fish Lake. So if we go to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit more about it. So Fish Lake, 8 members, and the punchline here, it's a 13 megawatt project. And if you split 13 megawatts 8 ways, it's very small slices, right? So it's less than 0.5% of our annual clean energy needs, but that 1.82 megawatts that we are trying to contract for, huge compliance value. It's very important for compliance. So this is proposed to be a project in Esmeralda County, Nevada, which is kind of central Nevada, kind of near the border with California. New build was originally supposed to be online 2024. That did not happen. And so that's why we're here looking at an amendment, which CC Power and the developer have already entered into. We go to the next slide. So again, with the alternatives, we are the ask in the staff report is that we do modify the participation authorization, which is option 2, but just to highlight option 1, with CC Power contracts, if we do not agree on the change that CC Power's made, we're in a position we'd have to drop out of the project participation share agreement, which aligns how the 8 of us share this resource, and we would have to drop out. Other members have expressed strong interest. They'll take as much of this as they can get. So there's no issue where there'd be a hole, so to speak. And if we do drop out, there's a risk of non-compliance with regulatory procurement orders. So what we're asking is let's modify the authorization, we'll modify the price, and we will mitigate some of our compliance risk. And as we'll detail on the next slide, maybe some more geothermal we can squeeze. We go to the next slide now, the comparison of the original and amended. The contract originally is a 13 megawatt guarantee. In the amendment, there is now line of sight that it could be up to 19.8 megawatts. There's another off-taker, and there's also some additional capacity that could be used, and based on what the developer is able to build, could be as high as 19.8 for CC Power. And so that second row for SVCE, we have a 14% share. And there's this step up provision, which this is a default protection really, that if one of the other members drops out of the agreement for some reason, the rest of us are on the hook for 125%, that we have to step up another 25% of our original share. And in the new agreement, we could be up to as high as 3.47 megawatts if a number of things were to play out. Not super likely, we're thinking it's still going to be at 1.82, but there's the possibility. And the online date has been extended to 2027, fixed price agreement, and again, for our clean energy needs, about 0.5%, maybe up to 1%. Right? Go to the next slide. In terms of just a timeline where we are, where we've been. For the last several months, we've been negotiating these deal terms. And last month, CC Power amended the Fish Lake PPA. And so today we're putting forward this proposal to give authorization to modify these contracts. And pending that, we would work very quickly to finalize the COSO PPA. And then with Fish Lake, all of the participants have to go through their governance process, just like we're doing here, get their approvals, and we would all likely stay in the agreement. Go to the next slide to summarize. So with the COSO opportunity here, we're keeping a valuable resource in our portfolio for 5 more years and adding 1% more renewable energy than we would have otherwise had. And we're looking at some capacity for compliance. And we have some strong incentives with this, that the seller must deliver on the existing agreement and these new obligations in a cost-effective manner that we think protects us. And then Fish Lake, we are retaining scarce resource, maintains portfolio value, and we mitigate compliance risks. And that's all. We'll go back to the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach. Are there questions, Director Rister?
Thank you. I actually have 2 questions that I probably should know the answer to, but I don't. One is when we looked at the percentage of energy it would provide in the out years, does the percentage drop because we're expecting and producing a lot more energy from other sources, or the source decreases, or why is that?
It's both, yeah. So the resource will naturally have some degradation over time, like a 0.5 to 1% per year. But then, our load forecasts show that we will continue to grow, and so those will work in opposite directions.
Okay, thank you. And then the other is when you talk about this being a scarce resource, or the scarcity of geothermal, is it because geothermal is inherently scarce, or that access to it is difficult in terms of permitting or being able to build these kind of facilities?
I think it's probably a mix of both. There's a few regions in California where there's definitely prevalence for it. So the north of San Francisco and Sonoma Lake County potential. There's a ton of geothermal in the Geysers complex, and then in southeastern part of the state in the Imperial Valley potentially. But going through all of the steps to actually develop that are a lot of challenges and hurdles, and so just difficult to get all forces aligned to make it happen.
Thank you.
Director Schilwa?
Yeah, could you talk a little bit about the 3-year extension that's needed in completing the Fish Lake project?
Yeah, so this project contract was originally came to the board and was signed in 2022, and in a very turbulent market for projects in the last few years. And so this project has kind of ridden that wave. It has faced some economic challenges that at the terms that were negotiated then just was not going to work. And we have spent through CC Power a couple of years actually trying to find the right solution to make this contract work. And so it's taken time to get us there, and we've finally gotten aligned 2027 is the realistic.
Did they have permitting delays or any other delays that were outside of their control?
There were some challenges that, yeah, the developer did face in just getting the project going. So they have to go through their environmental reviews and then just testing, drilling, finding steam, and that all creates some delays.
So it was both technical, i.e. establishing the geothermal resource itself and all the permitting associated. Okay. And who permits geothermal? In Nevada, they're kind of open-minded about permitting compared to California. So do they have how is it permitted?
Yeah, they go through, they have a environmental impact report process that,
Outside of NEPA, or they just use NEPA?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not
That's okay,
sure.
that's
It's
okay.
at the county level or if it's,
Yeah, I mean, they have a lot of mines, so I would think that there was quite a bit of oversight of geologic things in general, but I just don't have any knowledge of that. Okay, well, thank you. It's this is something I'd really like to learn more about. Maybe we could meet offline.
Yeah.
Because I was a geology major and I've sort of forgotten everything, but I only know enough about geothermal to be dangerous, and I'd really like to know. So maybe we can have a conversation.
Director Hines?
Yeah, thank you. What's you had the cost would be consistent, unchanged. When a contract gets renegotiated, it sounds like everything's being renegotiated except for the cost. It's because they're probably running into other cost issues, and so they're renegotiating on those contract terms. What's the assurance that we're able to maintain that cost structure? I know that you say that it's going to be consistent, but what's your feel as far as the reality associated with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the structure is the same. There is some change of price, but what most importantly is with the COSO agreement, there's the existing contract and that capacity must be delivered on first. So with the way that we structure our purchase agreements, there's an obligation that a seller, they must deliver a certain quantity per year. And the way this is structured is they must deliver that certain quantity of our original contract first before they start seeing any benefit on payment for what they're able to do from an expansion standpoint.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Director Makachek.
Kind of a follow-on to that question, and I didn't see what the cost of this is and where that is relative to our portfolio and relative to the geothermal portion of our portfolio. Can you give a little relativity in that, please?
Sure. Yeah, the geothermal we have currently, most of which was signed, the COSO agreement originally 2020, and then we have another one is Casa Diablo, which was in the same time frame. So those were pricing at the time has certainly changed as things got more scarce, but we believe that the pricing of COSO and Fish Lake are still really competitive, and we would say probably better than the other things we've seen that are even elusive out there.
Okay. And then in total, what would our geothermal be as part of our load or our capacity? Because that's going 724, 365, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah, it's we're somewhere in probably
11.
10 to 11% range of geothermal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, some CCAs want to be 100% geothermal. So we're competing with some
Some of the hyperscalers want to be a lot of
Yeah.
geothermal too.
Yeah.
So it's a competitive resource.
Director Barbara Ian. Thank you, Chair. So I noticed on the attachment for the amended contracts, why are there some reductions?
Epstein. I had to say it. No, I saw that. And what else are you gonna think of?
Credit terms and meeting terms that we don't want to make public.
Yeah, so
And some information seems to be important, but they're redacted.
yeah, so the redactions are primarily focused on, credit or financial terms or commercially sensitive points that may still be either under negotiation or have been in negotiation, and things that we don't feel comfortable necessarily signaling to the rest of the marketplace where we landed.
I should also remind the board that at any point, if you want to see an unredacted version of anything that we bring to the board, you need to notify Andrea and she can send you the unredacted version. So we just redact it for public purposes.
Wouldn't it be prudent to just have it at closed session so we all discuss it, look at it, and maybe base our decisions on?
I don't think we can bring contracts that are not pending litigation in closed session. So these have to be done in public session.
Has anybody seen the unredacted portion?
Board member or?
And board members?
No, I don't think we've had any requests for unredacted versions.
Oh. How can I decide then? If I haven't seen, so shall we ask? Shall I ask individually? Because the information that's redacted are part of the presentation at least. For decision making, you have to match them to include what's being presented, and recommended is what that Conrad said.
So well, in that case, conceivably, every contract that Monica is approving would have to come in closed session to the board, which would be a large burden as far as I see it. So, it's like we have the general terms, but the details that conceivably are competitive or never released, because we're constantly looking at, from a market standpoint, we're trying to get, better rates from different sources. We can't go into those details. And so the only way that would be able to be done would be to do that in closed session, and we can't do closed session from a timeliness standpoint for every contract. And in this specific case, I'll ask Monica, after we approve kind of the general oversight, or even before, would you meet, if a board member had a question to want to look at the details, is that pertinent to the decision, or how you would deal with that?
Sure. Well, first, what the request is today is to delegate authority to me to finalize the negotiations and then execute the agreement. We can certainly, if you give me the authority, we'll continue to negotiate good terms on behalf of SVCE so that we can meet our compliance obligations. Because a lot of this is things that we have to do, right? And to Chair Klein's point, we're negotiating constantly with different developers, and we have to preserve some ability for us to negotiate good terms on behalf of SVCE. If we put all our terms on the table, then it eliminates my ability to negotiate, my team's ability. That's why we have to redact certain versions.
No, I understand that. If you present it to the public, then it lowers your leverage on the negotiation. What I'm saying is, on this board, the decision-making body that approves your authority to execute the contract, at least we know. And the only way, as you said, to know is, we request it individually and deal it with that. On the presentation, you're asking us to authority to execute that already. So wouldn't it be important, wouldn't it be important to see that at least by the board? And then that will make a decision to all.
So the board packet goes out, and you always have the ability to ask me or ask my staff to see anything unredacted before you make your decision. If the board has decided to delegate the authority to me today to continue these negotiations, to move forward with an executed agreement for the two projects, you can still request those unredacted versions that are still in process. We can send you those unredacted versions.
And the other half of that, of course, is this is in flux. So whatever we conceivably read, and this is giving her the authority to negotiate, whatever you might look at like a day before this meeting, in flux, 2 weeks from now might have changed. Some specifics of those terms are changed because the negotiations it's on. So, it's having trust in the CEO to do what's best in the best interest of the organization, trying to get the best rates, the best conditions from a market standpoint at any given time. So,
Actually, I have a process question.
One second. A question, process?
It's a process question. Listen,
Sure.
this vote we're taking today specifically is to authorize the negotiation. After negotiations are finalized, will there be additional vote to come back to the board to approve?
No.
Just one question.
No. And just to be clear, there's two agreements. On COSO, the request is to authorize me and my team to finalize negotiations and execute that PPA. The second one is to authorize us to continue participation in the CC Power project by increasing the dollar authority that I'm allowed to spend there. If we take no action on the second one, we are out. Just to be clear, we will not get that resource and the other CCAs will take our share. And we will not comply with our mandates by the state of California. And we will face penalties for that. On the first one, we will not bring it back. But we could bring it back. We would just have to inform that it would still be redacted and you would have to ask us to see the unredacted version. It would just add time to our negotiations with COSO. And it may also go away as well. And 3CE is more than happy to pick up that share as well, just to be clear.
Director Walia?
Thank you, Chair. A lot has been said, and I think fundamentally this industry is so unique and extremely complex and technical with very strict regulatory environment coming from the state, a lot of compliance that even having served on the board for 5 years, I was constantly trusting the staff, the CEO. And I completely support the way that you described it, that this is the right process in terms of timeliness. How much would I be able to figure out in the details versus getting broad authority in the interest of the organization? So I just wanted to share that my experience, and I have trust with the process that we have in place.
But don't get me wrong, it's not about trust. I trust everybody, right? It's just information for the decision-making process. I just find it deficient. But if, the board says so, I'm fine with that. It's just that information, each of us has a basis to make the decision to authorize her. It's not about trust.
I understand, but that's what I was sharing, that in 5 years, that's why I added that. I have felt comfortable, and the CEO knows before the board meeting, I always reach out. They know, actually, Andrea knows, to block time on my calendar because I will have a long list of questions for the CEO. And that's the time where I ask all the detailed questions. And I've never been refused any information from the CEO to the best of my ability to make the right as a decision maker. I completely understand and respect your position. Just sharing my experience.
Thank you. Vice Chair Meadows?
Thank you. So in my mind, and this is actually how we do it at our city too, is you backstop it as you have with the not to exceed amounts. And so that's what we've said. We know you're going to try to beat that. But to me, that's where my comfort level is. I don't need to know the detail. If you're, 2 million under that or 20 million under that, we've given you the backstop and you're going to try to meet or beat it. So that's all I need to know.
Any other questions? Comments?
You said comments.
Sure.
I appreciate where Director Barbadillo's going, and it's important to understand what the relative sizes of these are, but these are relatively speaking small. They're not giant ones. And also, to get to your point, that I believe one of the strengths of SVCE is on our power purchase side, more so than other CCAs. So I'm very appreciative of that spike in our strength, if you will, relative to the other CCAs. And I do have faith in our purchasing and our negotiating. And I also understand that you can't put your cards on the table, so. And then I'll make one final comment that I believe that CCAs are held to a disadvantage because it's a super competitive business now, especially with the data centers going in. And we have to have at the state level, I think, a change in the Brown Act so that it broadens it. But that's a separate legislative action.
Not for this. Okay.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Let me open up for members of the public. Bruce?
Yes, as a CCA advocate for the last 10 years, who's attended CPUC meetings, who's struggled with understanding how the PCIA is calculated based on non-public information, I very much appreciate that the Brown Act gives me access to this kind of meeting, to the executive committee meetings. If I wanted to go to the other subcommittee meetings, I could do that. And I appreciate very much that, there's so much information out there. My concern is actually more about PG&E and what they're able to redact when charging SVCE's customers a PCIA that never seems to actually diminish to zero, which I expected 10 years ago, that by now the PCIA would either be gone or trivial, because it is, I think, based on capacity they acquired before this agency and all the other agencies were formed. And I guess since none of you are PG&E directors, you can't get your hands on that. But I guarantee you that if an advocate like me were ever able to get my little mitts on it, I would spread it as far as I could. And so a question of, if you're going to give unredacted documents to somebody, how do you make sure that they stay confined to that person's, your eyes only and then in the shredder, as opposed to letting people like me blast it around. So whatever your policies are, please make sure that I never get a hold of anything.
Thank you, Bruce.
Now we know.
Anyone else, anyone remote wishing to speak on this item?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public comment. Director Lee.
Sure. I just want to say thanks staff for the report. I certainly have not only read it, but really appreciate how important it is to have these extensions. Geothermal is extremely rare and scarce. In that sense, not rare, but it's hard to get a hold of because there's just not a whole lot of new projects coming up. And the fact that we are able to continue to obtain this resource, I think is vital for our mix, and of course with the CPUC compliance issues. So I think this is really not really a large project, but it's fresh imagination, but certainly it's important for going forward. So to me, it's almost like a no-brainer. We need to do this. And answering Director Bobadil, I guess in the future, if you really want to get these redacted, like unredacted version, just come to staff earlier. They'll be happy to give to you, I'm sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Director McIntyre.
If discussion is over, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion. Could you put the recommendation back up on the? I would like to make a motion to support staff's recommendation as set forth on the slide in front of us.
I second.
Lots of seconds.
Any other comments before we vote? I just want to thank staff for bringing this to us. It's like geothermal is a precious resource, especially now in hearing from other CCAs that's their focus. It helps us fill, we resource adequacy, and I think it's valuable definitely for this organization going forward. So thank you and looking forward to negotiations. With that, please conduct the vote.
Director Stowe.
Aye.
Barbalio.
Aye.
Walia.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Ekchuk.
Aye.
Fruin.
Aye.
Chair Klein.
Aye.
Showalter.
Aye.
Vice Chair Meadows.
Aye.
Director Hines.
Aye.
Ms. Beltran.
Aye.
That carries unanimously.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you all. Next up is an informational item, understanding your bill and clean energy mailings. Pamela
Pam and Kate.
and, sorry, and Pete.
So you do get two of us today. We're hanging out in the back.
The OGs.
So we have some great information for you guys today about the bill itself and the required mailings that customers receive. We think it's a good idea for board members to be exposed to the multiple pages of the PG&E bill because number one, it's not our document, though our charges are on. And it's also important because this is what your constituents see on a regular basis. And we know that from time to time, you all get questions. And if you're not intimately involved with reading your own PG&E bills, as many people are not, this presentation and some of the information we give you today will help to build that base level understanding. And we're also going to cover the required mailings that go out that we send periodically to customers as required based on statute. We have 280,000 customers. And due to the exemplary work of Pam and her team, we know that a lot of them reach out in our direction to view our various resources on the website. They're engaging with rebates and they know something about SVCE because of that. But this is universal. This is something that everybody gets regardless. So all 280,000 people receive a bill with SVCE charges. Whether they read their bill or look at it at all is another story. And whether they understand it, kind of up in the air for most folks. So what we're going to do is break it down page by page, starting with page 1, which tells folks a lot of what they need to know right from the summary page. They can essentially determine if they are an SVCE customer at all. They can see the total amount that they need to pay. And then they also get a helpful chart down at the bottom that compares their energy use, both electric and gas, for those who have gas at their homes, compared to previous months. And so right from page 1, they can get an understanding of how they've been using energy. So what we've done is numbered a few of the components of this bill. And particularly on this page, I want to call out numbers 3, 4, and 5. So on the summary here, number 3 is going to be the amount that's owed for PG&E charges related to transmission and distribution. So this is typically the lion's share of the electric charges. And we've got some breakdowns, a few slides after this that will really dive into that. But item 4 highlighted in red, that's where SVCE has its time to shine, right on the title page of the bill. So if there's ever any question, you know, I heard about this CCA, it sounds like a great thing, but I don't know if I'm in it or not. Right there on page 1, if you're in it, you'll have SVCE charges shown. Now, number 5 is a little different because it's not really related to our business in the financial sense, quite so closely as the other 2. These are the gas charges for people who still have gas at home. And it's very common, especially in December, January, February, for people to take issue with their energy bill and say, hey, this is through the roof, what's going on? You're on the SVCE board. Why can't you do something about my PG&E charges? Well, you can get a look at that very quickly and see, well, ran your heater 24 hours a day and have $700 in gas charges. So it's not exactly a CCA issue. So going a level deeper, PG&E has its own page dedicated to the T&D charges And this is probably the most complicated page of the bill for your standard residential customer. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, they've implemented a couple of new things. And number two, the way that they display the charges could be a little confusing. So I'm going to break them down quickly here. So highlighted as number one, this is what you have. This is where they've placed the base service charge, which prior to March of this year, you may have heard about in deliberations as the income graduated fixed charge. But this is essentially a daily rate for customers to pay for their connection to the grid. It's not related to usage. It's instead related to how many days of the month do they take service from PG&E. In this case, this is a customer who's not had their base service charge reduced because of their income or housing status. And so $24 to $25, depending on if there are 30 or 31 days in a month, is what customers can typically expect to pay. Now, part of implementing that base service charge is that PG&E took some of the volumetric charges out of their basic rates, which are shown in number 2 there. So you see a peak and an off peak for this customer. It's a time of use rate. And what's interesting on this page is that PG&E displays their total bundled rate. So you see about 40 cents per kilowatt hour charged for the peak. And you see 37-ish cents charged for the off peak. That is what PG&E would charge a bundled customer who was PG&E customer for both T&D and generation. And so those extended charges in the far right column represent what a PG&E exclusive customer would pay. Now the orange bubble at number 3 is a generation credit. So rather than displaying a reduced rate for a CCA customer, they display the total rate, but then they back out the charges related to generation that PG&E would have charged. So in this case, you see a credit of $46.26. That means that PG&E removed the $46 from the bill so that it can be replaced by SVCE charges, which we'll see on a subsequent slide. This is so important to highlight because one of the main things over the multiple, nearly a decade that I've been here, is that a CCA is a double charge or an additional charge. It's a common misconception of a customer who just doesn't know exactly where to look for this information. Because this credit is here, it can't be a double charge, it's a replacement charge. And in our case, we're currently 1% less than what PG&E would have charged.
Chair, can I ask a question now?
Go ahead. And actually, yeah, let me get on this one. Sure. Stay on this
Okay.
page. Go ahead, Director.
So if I can, if I'm looking at the energy charges, the peak and off peak, it says 3051, 133.83. But I guess what I'm asking is that T&D and generation together? Because the generation credit does not, right? It's only a portion of it.
That is correct. So the 3051 and 133.83 are PG&E's T&D plus generation rates combined as one charge. The 46.26 that's being backed out of that is strictly the PG&E generation portion within that $30 and $133.
And what is the baseline credit is if you're the, okay. So it's called out for SVCE or the CCA, what that generation credit is, but it's not called out what the T&D is.
That's right. So the way that the information is displayed on the bill is that you would have to do some of the math in reverse to be able to determine what the T&D charges were for each peak period.
So is that all T and D?
So
Everything minus the 4626 and the 2448?
everything that remains would be considered T and D, yes.
And the non-bypassable charges.
And what?
There's non-bypassable charges too. The public benefits.
There are, so I'm lumping that together in one category. The next slide is gonna break that out a bit further.
Can you go over the baseline credit again?
Well, I hadn't touched on the baseline credit, so thank you for bringing it up. So the baseline credit is based on where a customer lives, and it's a quantity of kilowatt hours within a given month that you get a discount for remaining under that baseline. So I'll direct your attention to line 2 that says baseline allowance. There's an allowance for 31 days of 9.7 kilowatt hours per day, meaning for the first 300 kilowatt hours of the month, regardless of when they're used, the customer gets a discount on those standard rates, 40 cents and 37 cents of 8.1 cents. So in this case, the customer used, and I'm going to do some quick mental math here, about 140 kilowatt hours over that baseline. So for 140, they're charged the full bundled rate, 39 and 36. For the first 300, they paid 32 and 28.
32, I'm sorry, 32 and 28, what?
Cents per kilowatt hour. So I think that I could do it more simply in this, that for the baseline quantity of kilowatt hours based on where someone lives, customers get a discount equivalent to 8 cents a kilowatt hour on this rate.
Okay, I see that, yeah.
Additional questions? Just as a fallback, the 4626, on the previous page, it's called a gas, what was it? A gas adjustment? Or is, just trying to get a better understanding, because it doesn't seem to be apples to apples. And is this PG&E just muddying the waters, or what is this?
No, it's serendipitous that those numbers are right, because the 4630 or the 46 something on the first page is the California climate credit.
Okay. So yeah, so
it's just a
maybe-
fluke, they're the same?
Maybe to make sure, understand this might be a real bill, but let's make sure that every number is unique. Because I was surprised, I was like immediately looking for commonality, page to page, so.
We wanted to give you a taste of the authentic. This is what you get if someone comes in and goes,
It's a great point. It's a great point.
Just
For our explanation.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so it's just.
If you pass this test, we can stay on the board. We can continue to be on the board. Is that it?
So
All right, we better all leave the room.
Not say
anything.
Exactly this way, were so low that I didn't even think to check the two because they're so distinct and unrelated.
I look at.
But they're the same number.
Yes, no, and that's, so I'm always looking for.
I should have deleted that credit from the first page.
No, it's
because
fine.
we did alter, the bill for anonymity.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and also the timing of this one is because the base services charge was just fully implemented this most recent billing cycle.
Okay.
But for time, I think, just getting the clue to
Sorry.
maybe go to some more pictures.
Okay. Might share very quick question or?
Oh, no, I'm just placing a food order.
Oh. Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Never mind. Okay, go ahead. Continue. Sorry to distract.
Okay. So let's go with the easier number, 134.71, the total T&D charges. Where does that all go? Well, on the T&D side, we tend to refer to that as the PG&E side as one lump sum category, but it's actually the breakout of all of these different funds and charges, which we won't go into in detail here, though we did include a resource in the appendix of this presentation. But the total T&D charges go to cover everything from, efficiency and rebates through electric public purpose programs to wildfire relief and system hardening and undergrounding. So there are a range of things that build up to that total T&D charge. The meat and potatoes is the SVCE page of the bill. This is what customers see that reflect SVCE within the PG&E document. So in this case, the charges are very simple. There's strictly just our rate for generation multiplied by the quantities of kilowatt hours that are used, which sum up to a total. But the only thing that's really SVCE about this page is the title on the subheading, the name of the organization next to the total, and then 2 and 3 are within a text column on the right-hand side of the bill. And that's the opportunity for us to get a little bit of additional messaging out to customers. So currently, number 2 is some boilerplate language about SVCE and what it is. And number 3 is an explanation of how charges work on the bill, including that SVCE is not a duplicate charge or additional charge because the generation credit that we spoke about was already given back on PG&E's page. So putting some numbers into the stack here. We know that PG&E is the bigger part of the electric bill and has been for some time. But with the recent rate change as of January, we've become an even smaller portion of the bill. So of $164 in total charges, on this bill, SVCE was about $29. PCIA and fees were $16, whereas the T&D was about $118. Shown in a different way, our bare generation rate with no fees are currently about 18% of the total bill, where 82% have to do with distribution, transmission, PCIA, and then some of those other non-bypassable charges that Monica alluded to, which are charges that every customer must pay. The combination of our generation rate plus PCIA is hovering around 28% currently. Now, this formula is sort of the magic of the bill, and I'm going to perform it right in front of your eyes here. Because what customers want to know is, hey, you say it's less, I can't read the bill, I can't determine this. How do I know if I'm saving money? So the things that you'd want to look for are the generation credit, which will be a negative number, the PCIA, which is called out as a line item charge, franchise fee surcharge, which is called out as a line item charge, very tiny, plus the SVCE generation portion will equal the customer savings. And just like that, from this particular bill, at $46 is a generation credit, added 16, some loose change for FFS, and then the SVCE generation, and this customer saved 35 cents on their monthly bill.
That's 1% discount.
That's 1% discount on generation. One of the other things that you may want to look out for, ever approached by a constituent, is that solar customers are always a unique, one-off type of customer when it comes to bills. Brian's laughing as he's chewing his granola bar. So every solar customer situation is different depending on their usage, their system, how it's producing, even shading at their home and how they use their electricity from the grid. Probably best left to somebody who can really dive into it, and that's the level of detail that it requires. So before we transition to Pam on required mailings, We have phenomenal resources on the website put together by Pam and her team that help explain some of these things on the bill. You can also reach out to myself and my team for specific questions on bills, deep dive and analysis, and you can reach us through the standard channels.
This is like a throwback to our launch days where Peyton and I would do joint presentations in all of your communities, all your town halls, and then I would say technical questions. Okay, so here's the non-technical part. Okay, so how we inform customers of their energy choices, right? Community choice energy, customers always have a choice, but they're auto-enrolled in our service. And so on an ongoing basis, every new account established within our service area, someone moves in, a new apartment complex is built and folks are moving in. Customers are auto-enrolled and they are receiving 2 mailings by us so that they're aware that, hey, you have moved into a community that has Silicon Valley Clean Energy as your generation provider. Legally, we have on the back of this is all of our terms and conditions of service and informs them of their choice should they wish to opt out. You can see here on the mailer, we also always present our information in multiple languages. And also when customers call to turn on their service with PG&E, they are required to notify them. The PG&E rep will say, by the way, you're in the area of a community choice aggregator. So that's disclosed. The other required mailing is the joint rate mailer. So this is something that the CPUC Public Advocate's Office and part of the code of conduct that PG&E and CCAs have in how, or I guess with IOUs in general, in our relationship of working together. They want customers to understand their choices. So every year we are required by no later than July 1, so usually last week of June, we send these out by email and postal mail for customers with no email on file. And it is a template and the language is predetermined. I mean, jointly, we've worked on some of this language together with PG&E over the years. And it is comparing the base rate of what customers would pay as a PG&E customer or as a CCA customer, and we use just Green Start as our base plan that most customers are on. And it also gives them information about the electric generation mix, and this is just so that they can also compare not just cost but power mix. And notably, there's no emissions that are part of this joint rate mailer template. It's just looking at the power mix. And I think that was it, okay? And then the other required mailer we have, this goes out every fall, and this is a CEC requirement. So we've had some fun over the years where the CEC or the CPUC will have deadlines moving and then they're like, oh, we'll send them at the same time. And we're like, oh, that's not great for customers, but we're always flexible and there's always fun little changes year over year. And this template that the CEC provides as part of the power source disclosure program, it's been worked on and kind of has had some changes over the year. Last year was the first year they introduced that pie chart. This is the nutrition label. This is how they tell us to do it. We don't get a choice on how it's presented or the colors even. But this of course shows the power mix as reported, and it's always about 9 to 10 months behind because of the reporting, right? So, you know, the power resources team is going to be retiring renewable energy credits for all the renewable energy we're buying and providing. That kind of accounting process just takes time. And so the power source disclosure program, the initial reporting goes to the CEC in June. It gets verified. You as a board of directors always attests to this power content label. Typically in the August consent calendar or something, you'll see this here. And then we have a requirement to send it out to every customer, which we again do by email or postal mail. And this one's a little bit more fun because we do get to wrap it around in a more exciting way. So we also leverage that opportunity of having this required mailer to promote a program or something that we want to showcase about our services to customers. And it also does compare emissions to the California utility average. So the average emissions of, I guess, all of the utilities, or typically the IOUs, that's who we are compared against. It's not a comparison to PG&E. And just a preview, this is something that we had showed at the last executive committee meeting when we were talking about some of our procurement. Historically, instead of showing you 9 years of our PCLs, we have a summary here in this slide of how our power content has been, how we've informed customers about their power mix over the years. And I will note that the 2025 numbers are preliminary because again, that reporting, that is all still in progress, still finalizing those numbers. But we mocked up what we think this will look like for 2025's power mix. This is, note again, figures are preliminary. So Zach, if there's anything else you want to say about the preliminary, I think I made that clear. This is a draft. But you can see that we are projecting, as we've been sharing with the board, 100% clean for our mix in 2025. And there's also going to be some changes to this reporting in the future because they always like to change how we do it every year. It keeps me on my toes, all of us on our toes. But there will be, there's this load loss. So I'm going to phone a friend for Zach if he wants to add any more to that, or Monica, feel free. But just on the second point, I'll just address that was a Senate bill that to kind of help us get to SB 100 and emissions reporting, our clean energy goals as a state, that there will be hourly emissions reporting, but this is a report that will be submitted to the CEC and not sent directly to customers. So just wanted to flag that. But Zach, anything you'd want to add on any of this?
No, just that there's, just briefly that, the CEC is, in the last couple of years, they've developed some more stringent, granular reporting requirements as a result of 1158 and all that work. And so we're right in the middle of actually going through how we comply with that to get everything sorted in the new formats. And so the power content label will look a little bit different again, as Pam noted, but we think it's market improvement over prior years.
And where you can find this information, we always have this available. You can always find the most recent joint rate mailer, power content label. And I'll note that there was an effort by all of the CCAs as part of Cal CCA, and OMRET was a part of this working group, however many years ago it was. Every CCA has a key documents page on their website. So it is consistent for all 25 of us. And we all have our financial information there, our policies, the resolutions that you pass as a board, but just calling out that the power content label, joint rate mailer, it's there, as well as our strategic plan and anything else like that you need to really quickly find right there at the top of the webpage. Oh, okay, we have an appendix, but I'll just stop there.
Thank you very much. Thank you both for answering a few questions and trying to educate us as well as our customers on our bills. Just board, as a reminder that we still need to do a closed session that we think will be about 30 minutes, so just keep that in mind. For quick questions and comments, Director Makachek.
First of all, I love the summary that you did, because that answers questions and you come up with the 35 cents, which is a 1%. So I think that's really good. And I had written down, if you have solar, the bill becomes way more complex. So if you think, and then I have some questions. So, and you don't have to answer them now, but these are the questions that come up. Does PG&E decide what the bill looks like? My second is a PG&E bill the same as the SoCal Edison or San Diego Gas and Electric? And then does the CPUC regulate what bills look like? Is there a required bill format, line items, and then extra things that are gratuitous? So you don't have to answer those, or if you can, super fast.
Yes, no, yes, yes.
No.
Yeah, and I'm very available to talk about it.
Okay. Director Showalter.
I was wondering, how do these go out? Do these go out as a postcard, a letter, an email? Does it vary from year to year?
So any customer with an email on file gets the email, way more cost effective. And then it's a postcard that goes out for customers who don't have an email on file.
Okay, and then I know I should know this, but please refresh my memory on the page about the power content label. I loved your description as the nutrition label. I will never forget that. Anyway, okay, Green Start, Green Prime Direct, California Utility Average. California Utility Average is very obvious, but I don't see any description here of Green Start, Green Prime, and Green Prime Direct. So how do you know what they are?
That's a great observation. So I didn't show the full mailer, but that is something that customers, if they go to our website and look for their service options, 92% or most of them are on Green Start, right? That's our base plan. Green Prime is the voluntary upgrade to 100% renewable. Not too many customers are on that, other than some commercial or many of the cities. And Green Prime Direct, so we are required to list every single one of our products. And Green Prime Direct is the custom product for large CNI.
Well, just being one of those people who doesn't always go to the resource I'm supposed to go to, I think if we could get little footnotes of what those things were, that would be really helpful. Yeah. This is great though. I love this. And I have to say, in terms of marital issues related to boards and servos, one of them that comes up is how on earth the solar works. And so getting an explanation of the solar a little bit is very helpful. And I'm sure I'm not alone. I mean, in my family, not only does the solar save us money, and we're glad that it happens, but it is also the source of unending entertainment, because you can look at all these graphs related to it, and we do. And so, we have a lot of discussions about it and clarifying this.
We can bring a primer on solar and M customers and then the BT and some of the programs that we're migrating to in the future, if the board wants that. So the fall maybe. Yeah.
Andrea, could you pull up page 8 very quickly? So to me, this is pretty full information because this is what residents are always questioning. I'm hoping as we're talking to our electeds, I've already sent a copy of this to just this slide to our electeds to help them understand what we're dealing with. And when we hear, issues with residents, this is our little portion of the overall bill. And when we're talking about making things affordable, pushing back on the CCAs isn't the right thing. Generation is a small portion of the bill, and having this on the website, I think would be really important. And also how this plays on our website update. All the information you provided is really critical. So I'll leave it at that. Yes.
Thank you. I remember the public, Bruce brought up a great point. I mean, are we pushing back on the PCIA? Like, why is it staying up here?
So it's a whole separate thing that Monica can talk about.
Okay, but I mean,
very good question and comment. Great job with both the pieces. It answers some questions, and yet just seeing the complexity. Yeah. At some point, honestly, not you, but me, I got lost. Mm-hmm. And so how do we explain to customers? This is great, and Chair Klein, I'm glad you brought that up. My question was, so this is average customer based on what usage and what profile, and I'm happy to talk with you later.
This is roughly 440 kilowatt hours. 450 tends to be right around our average for residential.
Okay. Thanks.
And then to answer Director or Alternate Director Ristel's question, yes, we are involved in PCIA advocacy on 2 fronts. On the legislative front, as Benna mentioned in the CEO report, we're making progress on a bill to add transparency to how the PCIA gets created. It's not going to solve the PCIA problem, but at least we'll get more insight as to how it's established if the bill passes. On the regulatory side, we're very actively involved, along with the other CCAs through CalCCA, on change at the regulatory level on the PCIA and how it gets calculated and established. And perhaps even if there ever will be a sunsetting of the PCIA.
Right, because it's hard to justify at this point.
So that's something that we're very involved in.
May I add
Just that.
Quickly.
When I came to Cities Association meeting, we have sent a letter on behalf of Cities Association meeting on the PCIA bill.
Director Barbadillo.
Right, just a quick question. So on the billing, so who shoulders the income qualified programs, is the CARE and the FERA? Will it be the TND or the generation charges or both?
That's strictly on the PG&E side. So the income graduation has no bearing on SVCE rates.
All right, so basically it's discounted from the TND.
That's correct.
Director Martinez Beltran.
Thank you. I'm just wondering if we have like a little snippet, this slide right here that we're looking at, and maybe a short little video explaining about your bill without going into all the detail, just kind of an oversight that we could share with customers. I thought this was incredibly helpful for people to understand. I mean, this is huge right here, and looking at this.
Yeah, we have a blog post, I think we just lost it, but we have a blog post that breaks this down, explains it all to customers. Really happy to share that out in our follow-up to this meeting. We also have a award-winning video about understanding your bill, and we have a new version coming out that's like an animated walkthrough. It's something else that we're continuing. So we're like refreshing and continuing to put that information out to customers.
And as Pam said, we don't have full control, right, over the bill and over the way it works, because we would probably do it differently than it exists today. And we actually, going through one example, confusing in and of itself, it gets even more confusing because credits pop up and they disappear. A billing month can change. It's 31 days, it's 28 days, it's 33 days. Like, all of this is changing. And so that's why we're here. We're here to help customers understand. Peyton is like the nicest guy to talk to about your bill and to go through. He's got a great team that can go through it. Pam's put a bunch of wonderful resources together. So we're trying, there's a billing modernization effort underway with PG&E to try to look at, are there things that we can change and make this clearer? And that's what we've been advocating for through that is can we make this just a better customer experience?
Okay, thank you. I'll open up public comment. Bruce, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. Oh, gosh. Show the first page of the bill, please.
Sure.
So this is why people think SVCE is an additional charge. It's because TLDR, too long, didn't read, top of the first page. Oh, it's there, it's a plus. And so this billing modernization effort, I hope, will make that not happen anymore. And if it doesn't, that will be a complete defeat. The other thing I wanted to ask is, can you suppress getting your PG&E bill in the mail? Do they email it, like you email some things? You can suppress it. Okay, I still get mine on paper and I look at it closely because there's so many interesting things here.
It's a lot of fun to read.
Do we know how many customers auto pay their bills so they don't even have to look at it? It's just lots. Okay,
Yeah.
so this helps to maximize ignorance.
It does.
Thank you. Any member of the public remote wishing to speak on this item?
No hands raised, Chair.
Okay. This was info item. Thank you very much for the presentation, and I was looking forward to updates and all that. So thank you. Thank you for the great discussion. The board will now adjourn to closed session, and we will report out after that closed session. So we'll take a minute as everyone transitions. So let's go ahead and reconvene the meeting at 12:54 p.m. and I'll report our closed session report. And we just had a conference with legal counsel pending litigation of Silicon Valley Clean Energy and Central Coast Community Energy versus Origis USA LLC, San Luis West Solar LLS. Nothing to report. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting at 12:55.